Until the fourth numerical installment came around, the Resident Evil franchise inspired fear not just by presenting horrifying monsters and startling moments, but by making a nightmare out of mere experience. To survive, you had to be smart, conserve ammunition and health items for major battles, and endure long stretches between saves. Code Veronica matches these criteria in every regard, finding ways to fit in all the series' trademark elements while adding a few nuances all in its own. Over the course of the adventure, you'll experience the true meaning of horror. This isn't the sort of horror that relies on frightening monsters or excess gore, although such elements do exist. Rather, it's the horror produced by the fear of the unknown. To avoid unnecessary collisions with the malevolent mutants, you walk instead of run. Such care is necessary because just a couple of smacks or bites can knock your health right down quite a lot. Such precaution isn't always possible. However, to prevent overconsumption of the few guns and the limited ammo you have available, you often need to avoid enemies rather than kill them. This dynamic frequently forces you to run instead of worry stalking about. Dread is the ultimate terror, and it always wins. It clouds judgment, befuddles the mind. I've often gone into situations incorrectly prepared, misjudging the kinds of weapons I needed for the next round of foes. Once as Chris, I brought submachine guns to a room full of zombies, thinking I'd be fighting spiders and a weird amphibian lizard thing that shoots electricity. Granted, these particular zombies would spit acid, but even so, I knew the submachine guns I had with me were a bit much for the task at hand. Later, I fought the monsters I had thought I would actually be battling. My mistake led to the near depletion of one of the most powerful weapons at my disposal. The need to properly manage items is constant, and mistakes are costly, with an 8-item limit in effect, which later on becomes 10. Great consideration must be taken when it comes to weapon of choice. The remaining space will likely be used for healing and story progression items. I fell prey to this clever trap more than once, but one specific incident from the early in the campaign still rings in my memory. In an old warehouse, I collected a pair of submachine guns for a fellow standard prisoner, naively thinking my handgun would be enough for my use. I was wrong. Instead, I was jumped by a monster, only to this game. Resembling a mutant orangutan with extendable arms, the Bandersnatch proved quite resistant to my puny weapons and nearly killed me. Thinking it was a boss, I reloaded, this time bringing a more powerful gun, and found the task much easier. Progressed from there, and soon found out that the Bandersnatches are in fact regular enemies. Cursing ensured, but not as much as might have if I hadn't been carefully conserving ammo up to that point. I still had plenty of good stuff remaining. Even so, I acquired a great fear of those lethal beasts. One that did diminish, but even when I learned of their weaknesses to explosives. A dangerous balancing act that followed where I took care to only use the grenades necessarily to kill them while still saving enough for my eventual showdown with one of Resident Evil's most infamous creations. I later regretted my liberal use of explosives because better conservation would have made Chris's half of the game considerably easy. But I didn't mind too much. I managed to conserve other heavy weaponry that served me well through the game's final moments. Despite the failures and successes that eventually allowed me to achieve a victory, getting to the end was not easy. My effort involved multiple retries from earlier saves to complete some portions of the campaign to my satisfaction. Simply wasting too much ammo on pesky mobs and still getting poisoned could ruin my current run. I probably saw more game over screens than there are words in this review, but frustratingly as that sometimes was, it's also kind of the point. If you don't think, you die. If you're not careful, if you're not afraid, and even if you're too afraid to die, once you reach your goals with confidence, through, you can win. That's what makes the game so rewarding. Resident Evil Code Veronica gets an 8.5 out of 10. This is Red Wolf signing out, and I'll see you next time.